People have been asking me where the Neurobride video was. Well, this is why. Initially, I thought about setting Saber Shiki as a poll option for those Twitter polls that I do to help me determine who I'm going to make the next meme video on, but I figured, well, if I do that, then that means that the last 3 videos of this series were all on Sabers. And Dyer from the Farmville Refugee Camp channel wanted one on Shiki, and I know that he set his Discord profile pic to show Shiki for the past month or so, ever since the beginning of London or something, so I figured why the fuck not. So let's get started and talk about FGO's best Onee-Sama Saber servant, Rogi Shiki. The one with the katana, not the knife. Shiki is a 5-star saber who debuted in the Kara no Kyokai event and whose main gimmick revolves around the instant death mechanic in this game. We've had servants in the game already who have had insta-kill mechanics, to be fair, but both of the Shikis take it to a whole new level to the point where insta-killing with them is actually a legitimate strategy for them to use in anything that doesn't involve boss fights. Which, in other words, is a really fancy way of saying that insta-killing is great for farming but not much else. But besides their insta-kill gimmick, Saber Shiki is a self-sustaining art saber who can also double as a tank if needed. How is she a tank, you might ask? Well, let's take a look at her stats. So at level 90, Shiki has 15,453 HP and 10,721 attack, and with max grails, those go up to 16,929 HP and 11,736 attack. She's got standard Saber class stats for Star Absorption and Star Gen. Her MP charge rate is 0.84%, an S growth curve, and she's true neutral. She's got a standard 2A 2B deck, and like Neurobride, with an Arts NP that makes her an Arts Servant. Her quick card hits 4 times, her arts cards hit twice, her buster cards hit once, and her extra attack hits 4 times. Saber Shiki has the highest HP out of all the gold sabers right now at the time of this video in NAFGO. The only competition that she has in this field is actually not from any of the 5-star sabers, but from a 4-star, Sumanai, but that's only if you decide to grail him. Naturally, this makes her really good at tanking stuff, but that's not to say that she can't pump out some serious damage too. Give her some foes, a good craft essence, and some levels in her skills, and Saber Shiki can dish out a surprisingly brutal beatdown of her own, pretty much to mana burst levels, even though she doesn't have the mana burst skill itself. And speaking of skills... Miss Haagen-Dazs, wait, wrong Shiki. Her first skill is Mystic Eyes of Death Perception C, which lets her ignore invul for 1 turn, increases her own arts performance for 1 turn, and reduces all enemies' insta-death resistance for 1 turn from 25 to 40% and 60 to 80% respectively, on a 7 to 5 turn cooldown, all depending on level. I mentioned how Shiki doesn't have mana burst, but this is pretty much as close as she's going to get to having one. And in the same vein, Mystic Eyes is the kind of skill that, for the most part, you're only really going to use when you have her MP charged. As a matter of fact, because of the extra effects that this skill has, namely the Death Resist debuff, Mystic Eyes is, in a sense, probably even more so an MP buff skill than Mana Burst itself, since the only part of Shiki's kit that has insta-kill is her own Noble Phantasm, as it is with most people with insta-kills anyway. That being said, thanks to its invul pierce and the fact that the Death Resist debuff has a chance to affect all enemies, not just one, the skill does have a fair degree of utility in case you need to attack someone who has invul and no one else on the party has a skill that lets them ignore invul, or if you just want to set up some super gimmicky insta-kill teams for farming or whatnot, but we'll talk about those strats later. Her second skill is Unyo. Unyu? Fuck it. Cloudshine B, which increases her own attack for 3 turns and increases her own mental debuff resistance for 3 turns by 15 to 25% and 18 to 36% respectively on a 7 to 5 turn cooldown, all depending on level. As Soberoni has probably already told you, mental debuff resistance is pretty much fucking pointless, so let's talk about what isn't pointless, the attack buff. By itself, it's a nice little attack buff, somewhere in between something like a Charisma skill and Neurobride's Flowers on Earth, but you activate this skill with her Mystic Eyes, and you can see why I said earlier in this video that Shiki does in fact have some immense damage potential despite her low attack rating. Throw in a few extra buffs for her like an additional Charisma, Fox's Wedding, or Tactician's Command, and then suddenly Shiki will actually start looking like the broken, invincible big sis that you all know and love. Her third skill is Yin Yang A, which recovers her own HP at the cost of 10% MP gauge, which for a demerit is actually not bad at all, considering the fact that it heals her for 2,000 to 5,000 HP on a 6 to 4 turn cooldown. This is an integral part of why she can be such a strong saber tank. Other tanky sabers like Artoria or Honorary Canadian might have a lot of HP, but they lack the ability to regenerate health on their own and thus depend on teammates for HP regen. Or if they do have their own skills that heal, it's not that good because they have additional effects like, disengage. That's not the case for Shiki. Level this skill to max and 5000 HP is barely less than a third of her total health pool at level 90, and on a 4-turn cooldown, which is among the shortest cooldown durations we have in the game right now. Give her Tomo for skill cooldown reduction and art support, and as long as she doesn't get hit by enemy NPs, she becomes one of the toughest servants in the game to put down. Shiki, meet best pupper. And if you're worried about the MP charge cost, don't be. As an art servant, Shiki can charge her MP pretty quickly, and she can even use Yin Yang when she has no MP charge to begin with, because the skill itself doesn't say that it has a minimum charge requirement, meaning that ideally, the best time to use the skill is immediately after she uses her MP, when she doesn't have a lot of MP charge. And her passive skills are actually really interesting compared to the passive skills we've been dealing with so far. She has Magic Resistance A, which increases her own resistance to debuffs by 20%, Independent Manifestation C, which increases her crit damage, mental debuff resist, and insta-kill resist, all by 6%, and Connection to the Root A, which increases all of her command cards' performances by 6%. Independent Manifestation and Connection to the Root are two passes that are unique to her, and it gives her a nice little bundle of extra stats basically for free, just because she's supposed to be a broken-ass character in the Type Moon universe. And I guess she would be in this game too if insta-killing wasn't so ass. Waking up in the cold sweat, someone else in this cold bed. This Landlord's NP is Mukushiki Kara no Kyokai, an arts AoE NP that deals between 450 to 750% damage scaling depending on NP level, that ignores enemy defense buffs and cleanses all allied debuffs, including her own. It also has a chance to inflict insta-kill on all enemies from 60 to 100% depending on overcharge level. Kara no Kyokai is the other half of the reason why Saber Shiki's whole gimmick revolves around insta-killing, the first half being her Mystic Eyes skill. Combine these two halves together and you get a potentially extremely efficient farming machine. You ever know that you want to farm, but the enemies there have a little bit too much HP for you to farm efficiently? Just bring Shiki along, pop Mystic Eyes and her MP, and see if she can insta-kill all of them at once. Now, why do I call her a good farming servant but not a boss killer? Well? Alright, so in order to understand why the insta-kill mechanic in this game is so shit, is because in short it basically never works against the people you want it to work against, as in bosses and servants. But you might ask yourself, well, Shiki's Mystic Eyes decreases enemy instant death resist by 80% at max level, and her MP alone, even at overcharge level 1, has a 60% chance to insta-kill, so wouldn't that mean that at max level, Shiki's MP has at least somewhere around like a 140% chance to insta-kill? That's where the game isn't really clear about how its own mechanics really work, as it isn't for a lot of things to begin with. So, if I'm understanding this correctly, when the game says that it decreases their instant-death resist, what the game is actually doing is taking the enemy's death resist percentages, whatever they are, and increases those numbers by a margin of 60 to 80%. It doesn't actually add a flat 60 to 80% chance to whatever number already exists that determines an enemy's instant-death resist. So put it this way instead. Take Assassin Shiki's Mystic Eyes, for example, where at max level it reduces an enemy instant-death resist by 100%. That means that it essentially doubles enemy susceptibility to insta-kill attacks. It doesn't guarantee that the enemy will, without a doubt, get gimped by an insta-kill move. It just means that they're twice as likely to let that insta-kill land and kill them. Combine this with the fact that servant bosses have an insanely low chance of getting insta-killed, and you can basically forget about landing a successful insta-kill on them. Because if you do, you probably could have gotten 2 or 3 SSR servants from the gacha in the meantime with that luck, and I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say that. Even some of the more significant mob spawns have big resistances to insta-kill enemies like chimeras, or demons, or big dragons. It's possible, but it's usually a better use of your time just to take them down the old-fashioned way. And when it comes to story bosses like Solomon or the Demon Pillars or anything like that, yeah, just don't even try. This is all just a roundabout way of saying that Shiki is much better as a farmer than as a boss slayer if you're only looking at the insta-kill mechanic, since really the only things you will be insta-killing are regular mobs of any given node or quest. If you love seeing her insta-kill everything with her MP, just know that you're only ever going to see that when you go out farming with her. And if you're bummed out that Invincible Big Sis isn't as epic as she's supposed to be, just know that if the insta-kill mechanic worked to any reliable degree, that would make literally everything trivial, and everyone and their mothers would be pressuring you into rolling for her instead of this fucking asshole. But if you think about it, considering her backstory, I guess this is exactly how Shiki herself would have wanted it. Someone who's just better at, mundane, trivial farming rather than actually fighting battles that determine the fate of the world. But that's just me. Something that I do want to add at the end here is the damage scaling on her NP. Most AoE damage scalings go something like 300 to 500%, and post-interlude buffing something like 400 to 600%, like good civs or amateur dentist dudes. Shiki's is more akin to Saber Altars, but even stronger, so even if the insta-kills don't work, which we've established is kind of a shitty mechanic in this game just now, she can still deal a serious chunk of damage either way. And I wonder if I'll ever So as you've probably figured out by now, you can use Katana Girl in two straightforward ways, one as a self-sustaining saber tank, and one as just a simple farmer. Despite the fact that she's perhaps not the best servant to bring along for serious fights, her qualities as a self-sustaining tank with the ability to give herself some serious burst damage are, in my opinion, good enough to warrant her a spot in your main story quest parties if a strong saber is what you're looking for. And naturally, thanks to her art-centric deck, sticker and arts teams, and her arts cards combined with her MP's party debuff cleanse actually turns her tanky saber roll into a bit of a support tank roll too. And given how the insta-kill mechanic works in this game, Shiki is great as a farming servant. All you really need to do is figure out a way to get her MP charged quickly, either with Waver or K-Scope, and she'll be able to seriously soften up one wave or just wipe it out altogether. The fact that her MP animation length on fast is rather fast also makes it a good farming tool, and besides, it's just really cool to look at, seriously. There is a third way that's a little bit more convoluted and probably not worth your time, all things considered, but one you could do if only for shits and giggles, and that's in an insta-kill team, because remember that Saber Shiki's Mystic Eyes inflicts death resist debuff on everyone for one turn. That means that if you have teammates who also have MPs that have a chance to insta-kill when Shiki's doesn't have hers yet, she can help her teammates insta-kill too. Also keep in mind that while most of the time the insta-kill thing won't work, there are going to be times when they actually do, namely quests and events in the future, the K&K event self included, where insta-killing becomes a legitimate strategy that can save you a lot of time and headaches if you have the means to make it work. So don't neglect Shiki entirely just because her insta-killing gimmick isn't the most reliable mechanic. Actually, don't neglect her at all, you fucking asshole! Shiki's best team comp is naturally arts teams. Her best teammate then is, logically, Bushytail, since with her MP, Shiki can spam her own heal skill all day and have her attack buff almost always active, and her NP can start looking like a nuke with a chance to insta-kill everything that's not a servant boss or what have you. While by herself, Shiki probably has a tougher time being your team's primary DPS, she can easily become one with the help of strong supports like Tomo, Waver, and Hans. A Tomo, Waver, and Shiki team can be pretty damn scary if you can set it up, and because of Shiki's huge HP, you could probably even start challenging archer teams. But you're not Rexlent or Razor Ninja, so that's probably not going to happen. But part of the beauty behind her gameplay design is that Shiki doesn't really need to be part of any particular team composition because her skills make her so self-sustaining. Everything that she really needs she can provide herself, like a general attack buff, an MP damage buff in the form of Mystic Eyes, and the best heal skill in the game. Really the only thing that she's missing is a survival skill like an Evade or an Invul, and if she had that, she'd probably be the best tank servant in the game. And speaking of survival skills, I mentioned Ku earlier as a joke, but a Ku and Shiki team could actually work because the stronger Ku's teammates are, the longer he himself survives too, just because of the nature of his evade skill. So that means that generally speaking, the longer Shiki survives, the longer he'll survive too. And her Mystic Eyes can give his MP a better chance of landing his insta-kill if only as a small bonus. They just need a dedicated support like Waver or someone to give them some additional buffs to help out. Hell, you could probably even put her together with herself if you really need something insta-killed, but I'm not sure just how well stacking death resist debuffs together works out. Shiki's an art saber, so you know what that means. Formal Craft or its lower rarity counterparts are her safe options, but because of her MP nuke damage potential, CEs that boost MP damage like Heaven Seal, Black Grail, or Halloween Princess are good alternatives, and CEs that buff MP gain like Halloween Devil and Divine Banquet are also valid if you just want Shiki to spam her MP all day. Because she can be such a great tank, Naked Kirei is perhaps one of the better CEs to put on her, especially when limit broken, or if you prefer giving her even more heals over improving her defense, Maiden Halloween, Moonbath, or Golden Millennium Tree are all good on her. And of course, obligatory meme reference, use Limit Broken K-Skill for farming. Her Bond CE, Mugashiki Shinku Myo, increases party's arts performance by 15% when she has it equipped and is on the field. As much as it fits her arts playstyle, it's actually not an ideal CE for her to have, because in an arts team she'll likely provide much of the damage unless you're running other DPS arts servants like Vlad, Nero Waifu, Yuri, or Robin. Saber Shiki is one of the best Saber tanks we have in the game currently and fits anywhere you want her to, be it farming or story quests. While her insta-kill gimmick isn't always the best at times, rather than thinking that it's a wasted component of her gameplay, you should see it as a bonus instead, an added mechanic that can come in clutch during times when you know insta-kills do work. She can be a really efficient farmer, and with her own buffs in conjunction with buffs from her teammates, she can transcend her usual tank role to come and kick some serious ass and eat ice cream. And she's all out of ice cream. Mainly because the other Shiki ate it all. And, by the way, she doesn't actually like ice cream.
嫌いなもの、何かしら。考えたこともなかった。あ、でも苦手なものならあるわ。アイスクリーム。冷たくて、甘くて。ちょっと悲しいわね。あれ。
That's all you need to know about Yuzuriha's long-lost cousin. Below is a Twitter poll for the next servant how-to, and make sure to check out the other how-to that I put up with this one, the one on Nero Waifu. You guys have been consistently supporting this series with views and likes ever since I started making these kinds of videos, even though I never took the time to ask you guys for them, and so to show my appreciation for your continued support, I made this video along with the Nero one, so in case you were wondering why the Nero video was taking so long, that's why. And finally, thank you all so much for watching this video, and until the next one in the series, deuces.